Hey everybody, so great to be back here. I'm actually doing my first LinkedIn Live interview with Kristel Bauer today, and we obviously connected on LinkedIn about a week and a half ago, and just had a lot of synergy in the fact that obviously both being podcasters, but we are both in the business of helping and impacting other people. And as always, whenever you guys are coming on from whatever platform you are seeing this on, say hi and where you're coming in from. We would love to hear from you. So, Kristel, obviously, I want to do the proper introduction of you to my network, because obviously they know me, they hear me, they see me all the time, but they may not be familiar with you. So who is Kristel Bauer, and what does she do for a profession?
Well, thanks for having me, Scott. I have a really long, extensive healthcare background, and I worked in integrative psychiatry, functional medicine. That was my last clinical practice position. I left that at the end of last year to launch my business, Live Greatly. So I'm a long-term physician assistant. I'm an Integrative Medicine Fellow through Dr. Andrew Weil's programs. I just graduated from there in September. And my business is all about helping people optimize their well-being and really go after your dreams and attain success without sacrificing your well-being on the way. So I have my podcast, I'm a keynote speaker, I have online courses, and I work with companies and universities to do different programs to help either students or employees optimize their well-being. And it's just kind of expanding and growing. And I think right now with everything going on, it's just such an important topic to help people have tools to optimize their mental health and physical health as well.
So let's talk about that for a second, because 2020 has been a interesting year, to say the least, especially when it relates to mental health. And when we're facing these kind of global circumstances, it's, our mental health can absolutely be challenged. So for you, and you're in this profession, you help people. What have been some of the things that you've been able to help people with during this interesting 2020, with making sure that people's mental health was put first, but also what are some recommendations that you can give people to really make sure that they're taking care of themselves mental health wise the best way?
Yeah, good question. I think a big part of it is education for people. So the more informed you are, I think the more empowered you feel. So really recognizing that we all have so many things we can do to optimize our mental health, our physical health. One big thing is just nutrition. And that's something I'm extremely passionate about, because it's something we all have access to. We're eating all the time. So you can make those choices that you can put things in your body that will help you optimize your mental health. So that's something that I've been sharing. I really love sharing food that tastes good, that also helps, boost serotonin, or, that can help you feel your best. So nutrition's a big one. Also stress management, exercises, mind body approaches. I love meditation. I am an avid meditator. I've been meditating now morning and night for over 4 years. So I've experimented with all different kinds, and it has changed my life. Definitely, it's such a practice that I really miss, if I ever miss it, which is pretty rare. But that's something I think everybody can tap into, just to calm down our nervous systems. And that's part of mindfulness practices and all for mindfulness. And I think right now, this is like the perfect time for us all to really develop mindfulness practices to stay anchored in the present moment. Because you can get carried away with fear-based thoughts and what-if thoughts, and it takes you away from all of the magic in the present moment. So really trying to live in the now and give people tools to help them develop that practice.
I could not agree more. My wife and I, we've been doing a guided meditation every single night before we go to bed for the last 3 years. And awesome. It's absolutely set the tone, because obviously the 6 inches between our ears it's the most important area of our body, because our thoughts are what really drive everything else that's going on in our life. So for people that are having a challenging time, really focusing on proper nutrition, whether it's their cortisol levels are heightened because of all of the stress and maybe outside circumstances that they're dealing with because of this pandemic, and they can't focus on the good of everything that's going on. They're having trouble finding gratitude in their day, and they don't have time to meditate. What are some simple things that people can do to really start putting themselves on a path of getting that kind of personal but also positive clarity?
Yeah, the statement that people don't have time to meditate, I would hear that all the time actually when I was practicing, because I worked with a lot of very, very successful individuals in their careers. So successful in their careers, but also struggling emotionally, mentally. So not successful in other areas, looking for support there. So I would say first thing, like, you have to make time and you have to make yourself a priority. It doesn't have to be a big chunk of time. So you can take 5 minutes, and that is a wonderful place to start to meditate. So I think there's this idea that you have to do it for like 20 minutes. And it's great if you can work up to that, but in the beginning, you don't, and I still now, like before this, I sat for 3 minutes and kind of calmed my mind because I was just doing a bunch of different things with my kids e-learning. And I'm like, okay, I want to ground myself. So that's something I think people can access all of the time. Like if you have a meeting coming up, or you have something important going on and your mind's all over the place, take a couple minutes and just focus on your breath, and that can calm down your brain waves. It can calm down your nervous system. That can help with focus, with attention. And then over time, these practices, they really add up. So there's been some research showing that even after 8 weeks of mindfulness practices, you can have positive changes in the brain. And that was with a specific program. But I think that's so exciting. It doesn't have to take years. It can be immediate even, where you can have a shift with just sitting for a short period of time. Another thing would be to really get a solid morning routine down, because if you are busy, if you do have a lot of stuff going on, especially if you're working from home, it's like juggling everything, right? It's important that you take time first thing for yourself, and then you're not going to be as reactive then during the day. Because if you start your day and you're like checking your phone and you're responding to emails and then you're thinking about all the stuff that you have to do, you're reactive. And that is probably going to carry you throughout your day in that mindset versus, okay, I'm going to take time first thing to, whether it's meditate, go for a walk, go for a run, just gratitude practice, visualization, find something that makes you feel really, really good, even if it's just for 10 minutes. And that really also can set you up for success. And then exercise, like I briefly touched on that, but I think that is incredibly important. And that actually was something that I would like prescribe to people for their mental health, in addition to whatever else we were doing. It's a natural mood booster. So right now, for me personally, I have been working out every day. And if I don't do it, I can tell a difference. So I really think people should focus on moving their bodies, try and get outside. Little things, like it doesn't have to be this huge dramatic shift, but again, like a couple minutes before a call, a couple minutes to reset your nervous system, focusing on your breath, diaphragmatic breathing, belly breathing, something you can do all the time. And that is a wonderful stress reduction. So yeah, those are some of my favorites.
Yeah, the big thing for my wife and I is we have a very, very stringent morning routine. We nothing invades the first 4 hours of our day, and we wake up at 6. She calls me the captain of the morning, so I kind of get her up and out of bed, take the dogs for a walk. We go downstairs. We work out every single morning at 7:30. Awesome. We have a home gym, and moving my body. I've been in the health and wellness industry. I was actively a trainer and nutritionist for 18 years. So it's in me. There's never going to be a day that I do not work out. And then we have our morning breakfast, our coffee, and then our day begins at 10 o'clock every single day. So we don't do anything before 10 a.m. And waking up with that peace of mind, where we don't have to jump out of bed and rush around and get ready to work and check emails and get on social media, because those things actually trigger cortisol releases. Those things trigger stress and anxiety and overwhelm. And when you are stressed and overwhelmed and full of anxiety, it's going to take you down a path that's going to, halt you instead of move you forward. But the other thing is, I always practice gratitude. I have a gratitude journal that sits by my nightstand. I write in it every night before I go to bed. It's just a daily habit that I have now. And, if you look at some of the top minds and top performers in the world, there's three things that constantly stand out that they all mention they do. They eat healthy, they work out, and they get plenty of rest. Mm-hmm. And those three things, if people just adapted those three things, they just, like you said, they just move their body 15 to 30 minutes a day, whether it's walking around the block, walking on a treadmill, whatever it is, eating sensibly, eating healthy, putting the right things into your body, and getting plenty of rest, like getting that 8 to 9 hours, however many you require every day, you're going to feel better. I'm always interested to know this because everyone gets into the mindfulness game and the self-care game and then becomes a proponent and an advocate of it like you are now because of a personal experience. Mm-hmm. So what was it for Kristel that ended up pushing you into this modality? What was your aha moment, or what was that breaking point for you where you're like, you know what? I need to change what I'm doing because I do not like the path that I'm going down.
I think that it was, I got into more healthy, organic eating, healthy living when I had my kids. So that was wanting to be healthy, wanting to, live healthily so I could be there for my children. But then a big shift too happened when my mom was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And that was 4.5 years ago or so. And it was a huge shock to the family. And at that time, a little bit before that, I had started to dabble in meditation. And I hadn't really explored it very much. I thought it was kind of weird. I was like, I don't know if this is working because I never grew up meditating. It didn't come like naturally. It wasn't taught in PA school. And I just developed that practice after her diagnosis. We got her into seeing an integrative medicine physician who was wonderful. And it was a very kind of spiritual experience for me. I did a lot of exploration. I explored Reiki. So then I became a Reiki Master. I kind of advanced through that. So I really was trying to incorporate kind of my medical analytical mind and the spiritual practice and getting to know myself a little bit more, becoming a little bit more aware of those habitual things that I would do that I never really gave thought to, and some of the background thoughts that I maybe wasn't noticing. So it just was an eye-opening experience, and it made me wake up. I wanted to live my life fully. I really was like, why am I doing things that I don't love? Like, I just shifted my perspective on life and kind of gave me a new appreciation, I think, for life. And as I was trying to guide my mom to some great options throughout her healing journey, I wanted to learn. So then, I got back out there. I started working in integrative psychiatry, furthered my education, and it's just been a really incredible process of self-development and self-discovery throughout it all. And obviously, some really, really hard times there, a lot of, fearful moments in that. But at the same time, I think a sense of trust that things are all happening for a reason, and tapping more into that spiritual piece, I think that I had let go for a large portion of my life. And that's just led me down the path of really wanting to share the things that I've learned and discovered to help me cope with everything too. Because I went through a period where I was super anxious in that time frame, health anxiety after you have someone you love who's diagnosed with something like that. So I had to figure out how to deal with that and how to live my life the way that I really want to live my life, because I don't want to live my life worried. I don't think any of us do. So it was really trying to learn how to support my mind and support my body. And then discovering that, oh, wow, I really love this. I'm passionate about this, which kind of drove the excitement of sharing it.
No, I could not agree more. And sometimes you have to go through that personal experience. And I just wanted to ask you this because, I started practicing mindfulness and meditation and, gratitude and really affirmations and all that stuff about 7 years ago. And I'm not going to stop because, it's helped me in so many ways. They say the way that you do one thing is the way that you do everything. But there's a lot of business professionals that think the mindfulness game, not all, but there's still a good portion that think it's very airy-fairy. Like I'm not going to meditate. I'm not going to write in a journal. I'm not going to listen to this. Or what's your message to those business professionals or those business leaders or those business owners that are constantly living in a stressful environment, whether it's externally or internally, that are really struggling to find that good or to find that positive spark every single day. And they know they need to make a change, but the fear of starting to have a mindfulness practice and doing all those things that we just mentioned, it paralyzes them. What's your advice to those people?
Start small. And I saw a lot of people who were going through that. And I think, are you still there, Scott?
I'm here. I'm just, I'm giving you the space.
Oh, perfect. I wasn't sure if you popped off. Yeah, no, I think starting small. And again, I worked with a lot of people who are in that category, and you have to experience it. So until I think people have the sense of and feeling that you get when you start practicing mindfulness and the feeling that you get when you meditate, I think it's hard to be a believer in it, but you really have to experience it for yourself. And then you'll be able to have the kind of the fuel to go forward with it, because you're going to start to notice some really positive shifts and changes. But that doesn't always come right away. You know, the first couple of weeks of meditating, I think for me, I was like, look, this is weird. I don't know if this is working. But then all of a sudden there was like this switch that went off where I felt that sense of great peace and connection and clarity. And I think for most people, you know, they get there. So starting with just 5 minutes is a great place to start. And even mindfulness practices where you can pick a certain activity, where maybe it's while I'm brushing my teeth or while I'm taking a shower, or I'm going to take my dog for a walk, whatever it is. During that time, I'm really going to be anchored into the present moment. I'm going to be focused on, what do I see? What do I hear? What do I smell? You know, if you're eating something, what do I taste? What do I touch? And that sense of just being anchored into the present brings such a sense of peace, because it's calming down all of those thoughts that are just constantly going through our minds. And it can actually get you into a really wonderful alpha state with your brain waves, which is a really wonderful place to be. So I would just say, pick one thing, start with that, and hopefully you'll notice some really positive shifts and changes, and then you can expand and you can grow from there.
You know, and the interesting thing is that, you know, there's a lot of people that are watching and listening to this, and they're parents like you and I. They're husbands and wives like you and I, and they're thinking to themselves, Kristel, where am I going to find the time to do this? You know, I'm chasing the kids around. I'm working from home. My husband or wife is working from home. I'm remote teaching my kids. You know, stress levels have never been higher in a lot of households right now. So for that person that's sitting there and thinking this and feeling, they're feeling overwhelmed just thinking about trying to carve out some time to be mindful and to even find those 5 minutes. You know, for me, having dedicated blocks of time, getting very clear with my schedule. You know, I'm a very big pen to paper type of person. If it's not written down, I'm not going to do it. And I still have, you know, I have a Google Calendar, but I also have a paper planner that goes everywhere where I go, because sometimes I don't want to grab technology. It's sometimes easier for me to just write down in my calendar. So again, I just want to piggyback on that last advice for that husband, that wife, that mother, that father, that person that's listening to this and thinking to themselves, how am I going to find this time? What's your advice for that person? Because I know there's no clear-cut or best advice, but if you put yourself in their shoes, what would Kristel do?
I used to have a hard time taking time for myself. I would feel guilty about it. And I remember being in that place, but I'm just in such a different place now that it's like a distant memory. But I would say you have to make yourself a priority, because when your cup is overflowing and you're filled up and you're doing things for yourself, you have more to give. So if you're giving of yourself, you're going to get depleted, you're going to burn out, and then you have nothing to give anyone. So really, I get wanting to be there for your kids and for your family, or if you're, you know, husband, being there for your wife and your kids and your job. But in order to show up as the best version of yourself, you have to make yourself a priority. So for those people, I think it is even more important that you make a change in your life, because you're going through those habitual motions of just doing the same thing day after day, not feeling fulfilled. That's not going to change unless you change something. So it's really saying enough is enough. I am a priority, and working towards loving yourself. Because I think a lot of these activities of self-care, it's about self-love. It's about loving yourself enough to know that you deserve that. And again, remembering you will then be the best version of yourself for your loved ones, because you're sharing your energy with your loved ones. And if you are stressed, if you are anxious, that energy can be picked up by those in your life. There's studies where there's mirror neurons. We talk about mirror neurons, how we're very empathetic beings. So if you're talking with someone who's anxious, you can end up feeling anxious. So whatever energy you're bringing to your family, that might be fuel to really start to take care of yourself, because I know for me, I want to bring energy to my family that is going to help lift everyone up. And I think right now it's just taking more time for ourselves to nurture ourselves so we can do that.
They say self-care is the best care. And, there's, I don't know if have you ever seen the movie The Shift by Wayne Dyer?
I have heard about it, and I've read a lot of his books. I love his books, but I don't think I ever saw that film.
If you go on YouTube and you just type in The Shift by Wayne Dyer, it's a 2-hour movie. Portia de Rossi's in it. Wonderful movie. And it talks about the guilt that a lot of women carry about how they always have to take care of this person and that person. And at the end of the day, their passions, their desires, their needs, their wants are completely flushed down the toilet. And I always tell people that in order for you to fill the cups of other people, you have to fill your cup first. And I'm a recovering people pleaser, so I know this all too well, because I was always giving, and then I had nothing left to give myself at the end of the day. And it's when I really start putting myself first that things really started to shift in my life. I stopped letting people take advantage of me or walk all over me. I started speaking my truth. I started being more open and honest about my feelings. But at the same, in the same light, I started listening to people better, hearing what they were saying, not just brushing past it. And I think it's one of those things where it takes time. Nothing happens overnight. It's those small incremental changes that you make that truly start creating those shifts. So obviously you've been in this mindfulness space personally, but now professionally, and you've worked in healthcare. What's your big mission that you're working on right now? What is Kristel focusing on right now that has you so fired up? And tell the audience a little bit about what all that looks like.
Sure. Well, my podcast is something I love, so that's always a lot of fun. And I'm putting out an episode every Monday, so talking with incredible individuals, from all different areas about how they're achieving success and optimizing their well-being. So that is a lot of fun. And I'm working with different companies, universities, and putting together some different e-learning platforms, and I'm combining my speaking with different e-learning platforms. And I tailor things to the needs of my clients. So that's a lot of fun as well, because I think right now focusing on employee well-being, student well-being is, top priority, and should be top priority for with everything happening in the world. And I am launching tomorrow, actually, a course that I'm excited about called Healthy Mind Starts in the Kitchen. And that's an online course, and it's all about the gut-brain connection, eating to optimize your mental health. So that's something I always get so excited talking about. And I have another online course too. That's an 8-week online course taking people through transformation, where I kind of share all of my tips and techniques that I've learned throughout my training, throughout my experiences. So that's more in depth for people who want to take it to a deeper level and are looking for a little bit of guidance along the way. But I'm just excited to share my message with everyone and really help people awaken to their own power and to their well-being that we all have. And I think a lot of us look outside of ourselves for that. And I like helping people realize that it's all within you. You can find that peace that you're looking for within yourself, and just helping people awaken to that.
No, that's wonderful. So before I get to my final question, obviously all of this information will be in the show notes for people to go back and find. How can people find out more about you and the courses that you have, and also the podcast that you're actually doing right now?
Yeah, for sure. So my podcast is called Live Greatly. That's the name of my company. And you go on any of the major podcast platforms, it's on there. And you also can check out my website, and that's www.livegreatly.co. I'm also pretty active on Instagram and then LinkedIn. Those are the two platforms that I tend to be more active on.
Awesome. So final question before we end today's interview. There's no wrong answer because this is what it means to you. So, Kristel, what does success truly mean to you?
Success to me would be that I'm living in alignment with my core values and that I'm sharing my talents with the world. So I think the biggest piece for me is that I'm just living in a way that's true to who I want to be and what is important to me.
Love that. And I could not agree more. And, the more that we start focusing on and taking care of ourselves, again, going back to something I said a few minutes ago, the more that we can actually take care of those around us, which is really, really important. Kristel, thank you so much for being here today. I think you have such a beautiful message and an important one, not just the mindfulness and self-care, but really being kind to ourselves so we can start really making a difference. So I'm just truly grateful for you, and thank you again so much for being here today.
Thank you so much, Scott. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. So guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye, everyone.